Hey, everybody. Welcome to the AI Think Tank podcast. For our fifth show, we'll be discussing the democratization of AI with the founder of Kwaai, Reza Rassool. Kwaai is a nonprofit personal AI lab with the goal of democratizing AI for everyone. Reza is the former CTO of Real Networks and pivoted from streaming media roots to become a leader in AI. Reza, welcome aboard, and how are you doing today?
Hey, good morning. Thanks so much, Daniel, for inviting us to the AI Think Tank podcast.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Yeah, and I'm a member of Kwaai myself, and I think I joined in March, and have been a part of every meeting since that I could attend. So it's so exciting to have you here and share this with everybody out there. So you're in California right now, right?
Right, actually, a gloomy California, gloomy Los Angeles,
This-
rather, the northern part of LA County. Yeah,
right. Okay, this is our first West Coast only show, so it's gloomy all the way down. Here in Seattle, it's the same, but that's par for the course. So
let's lift
anyway.
the gloom.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start by explaining what the approach to Kwai is and how all this started. It's so intriguing to me. So let's
Yeah, so thanks so much, and thanks for the kind intro. As you said, I was CTO at Real Networks up until the summer of last year when I retired.
Mhm.
Um, And I retired with a feeling of angst because what I'd done at Real Networks was I'd helped the company pivot from its streaming media roots. Real Networks was arguably the inventor of streaming media, this thing we're doing now
Yeah,
instead of commuting.
right.
This
That was
technology, yeah, it was an act of philanthropy, actually.
yes.
The RTSP protocol was created by Real Networks and then just published and made available to everyone.
Mhm.
So, but that Real Networks wasn't necessarily the beneficiary of all of the wealth created by streaming. Look, there's billions, maybe trillions of dollars of wealth now associated with streaming media. It is a significant, culturally significant phenomenon within our lives, within our digital lives.
Yeah, I was here to see that happen. So I moved to Seattle in the year 2000. And in audio engineering, I worked at a lot of these clubs and venues and large
Right.
venues. And I remember one of the first times it was so exciting. They were doing a live stream, and Real Networks was at the Showbox, the famous historical Showbox here in Seattle. And it was such a big deal. And Paul Allen did so much for this city. I have so much love for him and everything he did. And you can't walk more than 3 blocks at a time without seeing something he touched and affected in a positive way.
So
So
look, there's a narrative that goes through this. This morning, I was listening to a podcast. My normal ritual: we sit up and we have a cup of tea in bed,
mhm.
and my wife puts on the NPR podcast and BBC Radio News podcast. In the news today was about the monopoly of Google
Yeah.
and how the government's taking them to task and basically accusing them of being a monopoly. This is an echo of what was going on maybe 20 years ago or more, when Microsoft was accused of monopolizing the browser space. No, but actually monopolizing the digital media space. Remember the media players. And actually, Real Networks was the victim in that case, where Real Networks, the real player, which was arguably the superior player,
Mhm.
Microsoft undertook certain practices allegedly because I think that it was settled out of court. But there was an out of court settlement where they said, without admitting any guilt, yes, we're going to um, let's see, make a settlement because they had um, uh, coerced PC manufacturers to uninstall the Real Player and install the Windows Media Player. So look,
Wow.
these sort of monopolistic practices are par for the course. They're part of the tool belt of big business in order to preserve the moat around their business.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's somewhat frowned upon. So look, that's part of the context. So when I joined Real Networks in 2016, and Rob Glazer had come back to the company after spending a time away from the company, um, the mission, I think it was an implied mission, was to help turn around this beloved brand and turn it around from its streaming media roots into a different direction. And so as CTO, my job was to find that different technical underpinning for a new direction. And my bet was on AI. It wasn't an obvious bet in 2016. It's kind of,
Mhm.
painfully obvious now.
Yeah, yeah,
But and
way
so
more risky back
2016,
then.
I betted on AI and I helped foster and support and be the champion of AI technologies in virtually everything we did. And the
Mhm.
result was two AI divisions. One's called SAFR, SAFR, which is the computer vision business of real networks that is now focusing on access control and sort of an enterprise level ring doorbell type of application. Okay, so that's one business. And then the other business is based on natural language processing. And it's right in the heart of the mobile network system where Real Networks business, it's called Context, Kontxt, is um, is inspecting SMS and other inter-carrier messages for malicious traffic like spam and phishing and so on. So these are important businesses. And so I left Real Networks. Rob was able to take the company private. So now instead of owning 38% of the company, he owns 100% of a debt-free company with two very promising AI divisions.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could have just taken up golf, but I thought no, I'm an
You've done a
awful
lot.
golf player.
You've done
Uh,
so much. I mean, look, when I look at, just your list of accomplishments, I mean, you have involved yourself with not only computer vision and edge AI, but biomedical devices, hybrid cloud, social gaming, ergonomy, hardware,
yeah, yeah,
software, embedded systems. I mean, this is
yeah,
the list goes on, and you're, what is this? Many patents that you have under your belt as well.
right.
So it's
You
it's
know, these are kind of the things that you pick up if you've been in the right place at the right time. I
sure.
can't really claim credit for all of it. It's just amazing that in the early 90s, I fell in with a group of developers who said, "Hey, we think it's going to be possible to be able to edit a movie on a computer really soon. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put together a system." Before we knew it, we built one of the world's first, in that time was called a non-linear editor. And so we brought that to Hollywood, and that transformed the industry of how movies are edited. And that company was called Lightworks, and it's still going today. It went through many sort of revisions and ownership changes, but still, you've got Martin Scorsese's movies are still cut on Lightworks.
Yeah.
So so technology transforming an industry and displacing jobs, but also creating new jobs has been a theme of what I've been doing as well.
There's a lot of that. So, and I have a lot of friends in entertainment on all sides, and those who are quick to adapt and adopt are the ones to be on that cutting edge and really get to play with it and have fun. And I've seen many different artists, friends of mine who are already in the digital world or 3D modeling, take it to the next level and start implementing the usage of AI assets, video assets. I get asked to do things for movies as well related to this, which I'm starting next month. And it's incredible. But there's just it's ripe, and I think if you're a creative and you're technical, it's a profound time. And
Daniel, you were on the weekly public meeting a
that's
couple of weeks ago? We had Ted Cohen from the music industry there, and then
yeah.
yesterday we had Larry Namer,
Uh-huh.
the
Right, right.
founder of E Entertainment. So look, AI is on their hot topic list, and so yes, I'm fortunate enough to build up that Rolodex of those connections. But when I called on them, they said, "Yeah, we'd love to come and talk."
Yeah. And it's amazing because again, Kwaai isn't just, completely a technical effort. This is a very large community undertaking, a beautiful thing unfolding in a very open source manner in terms of approach. I mean, and on the very technical side, I mean, people like legends like Bruce Schreiner, Doc
Yeah.
Searles,
Right.
have also, come to Kwaai and are very interested and have amazing opinions and insights about everything that's going on here. So that's a big driving factor for me, is to see this everybody come together from so many sectors saying, yes, this is great. We'd like to have this for everyone, and it could benefit everyone.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, I see this as a club for the
Mhm.
smartest thinkers in AI, critical thinkers, not just sort of cheerleaders for
Right.
the status quo. No,
Hmm.
critical thinkers, people that
Right.
are say,
Hmm.
no, we can do things better,
Right. Right.
and that's what's important.
These meetings that are held every Friday, that you guys do too. You have a town hall type of meeting, and then you have the hackathon,
Right.
which is a little bit more technical focused, But it's there's nothing candy coated about it. I mean, I see everybody get together and really dispute and seek to redefine the systems that come together in all these parts and really try to understand, to define that scope in a better light. Is
Yeah,
it
I'm, you
to
know,
me?
I'm opposed to us just candy coating, as you said.
That's right. Yeah.
Sometimes the debates get heated, and it comes from a place of love and caring,
Hmm.
and but you've got to challenge kind of religious dogma that
That's right.
gets associated with the notions of what is open source, what
Hmm.
what is our place, and how are we going to be a credible counterweight to the monopolizing forces that prevail at the moment.
Right. Yeah. Owning your own data, owning your digital twin, owning
Right.
yourself as IP. I mean, and there's a lot. I mean, what do you have? It's a healthy group every week, and a lot more people along the way at different times. And everybody's so active, and we really care about something like teaching and tutoring. We had people today that couldn't make it because they were helping others, and everybody has a sort of gleam of philanthropy to them in this group, and really do believe in this mission. And I have a lot of concern and wonder about, things like education and technology, and this emerging technology is changing as we speak. So, where's the anchor in all of this? So
Yeah.
I think Kwai is a really great place to really engage in this more open ownership, and more democratized AI, more to make it truly personal. And so I'll let you go ahead and continue here, because I'm just so
Cool.
excited that I could keep going, but
Well, let me, yeah, at sort of a high level, what is Kwaai? Kwaai is a 501(c)(3), so it's a non-profit. It's based on open source and volunteerism. And what is it we're trying to do? And I mean, the movement's growing. So all of this sort of kumbaya type of let's all get together and chat, that's not going to be sufficient. That's not going to cut it. You've got to be doing something practical. And so what are we doing? We're building personal AI. In fact, we are calling it a personal AI operating system.
Mhm.
And we get a lot of pushback. Why are you
That's
calling it an
right.
operating system?
Hmm.
It's you're
Right.
not going to replace the thing that runs on top of the bare metal of your computer. No, we're questioning what is the computer that runs our lives. The computing resource that runs our lives is a collection of cloud services, a
That's right.
collection of IoT devices.
Mhm.
Yeah, your laptop, your mobile phone,
Sure.
maybe some wearables. And so that software that runs on top of it and allows you to have personal AI abilities, and these should be extensible abilities. That is what we call our Pi OS, our personal AI operating system. And so, what the operating has a kernel, and the kernel is the encapsulation of the sort of motherhood and apple pie guiding principles of Kwaai. That those guiding principles include self-sovereignty in terms of your identity,
Hmm.
and it includes the privacy and the control of access to your knowledge base. That knowledge base could be, if it's going to be really useful and empowering, will be intensely private. It'll
That's
know
right.
your intimate details, and you don't want that. You don't want to,
Mhm.
for instance, send that up in a prompt
No.
to the SaaS-based AI services. No, you want to actually keep that very private and secure.
Hmm. Right.
And so we build a we're building personal AI. There are three tracks of development, but about 80% of our activity is software development
That's right.
towards this personal AI operating system. The rest is split between two other tracks. One is fundamental AI research, and there's some amazing stuff going on in terms of causal neural networks, in
Mhm.
terms of reasoning AI, in
Right.
terms of looking at solving some of the deficits in the existing AI system. And then the third track is the policy track. So we welcome technical thinkers and non-technical thinkers. It's a broad church. The
Right.
policy track is looking at drafting policy that anticipates AI in the workplace, AI in society. And
Mhm.
so come along, find your place, participate.
Right. Yeah,
That's what
that's
Kwaai
right.
is about.
Uh-huh. Exactly. And I know I help with some promotion and research right now, but I try to participate as much as I can. And it's exciting to see, so many bright minds come together with so many working, applications and demos that have come up. And, even in the last few months, I've been able to at home do more with my own, approach to getting close to the personal AI. And as we go along, I share that with a group. And right now, we're looking at a lot of options for running locally, a lot of secure options for, different data sources. Data management is a huge factor here. This is a growing art, as well as the science, but mainly in such a rapidly changing environment. We're looking at uh, a time and place to set something in stone and start defining the boundaries around what we can manage personally and where we can take that in an open approach. So yeah, so what's next?
What's next? Yeah, so we've got a
Yeah.
roadmap. We've got a
Mhm.
roadmap of development. We're working currently towards the beta. In Q1,
Mhm.
Q1 ended up with the Kwaai Personal AI Summit, which was co-located with SoCal Linux Expo in Pasadena,
Mhm.
and that was a big recruiting event for us. Very successful. We basically went from adding one person a day. Now we're at a rate of two people a day. Now we're at a rate of doubling the membership each quarter, which is
Mhm.
just phenomenal. Okay. But we also demonstrated a proof of concept of what a personal AI operating system could be. And that we favoring RAG, retrieval augmented generation. We think that's
Mhm.
got a lot of promise for us,
Mhm.
rather than having your knowledge conflated in with a large language model.
That's right.
So, um, and having a smaller language model, one that can just do the linguistic job, allowing you to talk to your data,
Right.
rather than having a big uncurated collection of general
Right.
knowledge, which is factual and counterfactual.
That's
That's
right.
not of interest to us.
Mhm.
In fact, we think that
Mhm.
that's unnecessary bloatware
Yes.
that has been
Hmm.
language models been burdened with.
Right.
So
Hmm.
you're forced to run it in the cloud. It's forced to be. It can only run as a SaaS service.
Hmm.
And so the knowledge base, which is the free commonwealth of knowledge of humanity, is now placed up in the cloud behind a paywall. That we find, just horrible. But look, it's coming out of the playbook
Hmm.
of all sorts of other brands that have taken
That's right.
freely available content and then put their own branding on it and
Hmm.
charge you for it. Now, I'm not
That's
going to
right.
name names. You know who we're
Yeah,
talking
this has
about.
happened a lot. I've had this happen to friends of mine in different sectors of art. Okay, so
Exactly.
nothing new. It's always kind of gone on.
But taking a language model that's small enough that can run locally,
Hmm.
now you're not sending your information up to the cloud.
That's right.
And then retrieval augmented generation RAG, which is
Mhm.
still in its infancy, has got a
That's
lot
right.
of legs though.
That's right. Sure.
And it allows you to keep your data to yourself. It doesn't have the huge burden that you would have if you wanted to retrain or
Mhm.
refine or
Right.
retune a model. No,
Uh-huh.
you can just drop files into a folder. That's
Hmm.
the act of curating and removing those files. And that we want personal AI to be something that you can install in 3 clicks. 1 click. What does it look like? You might not want
Hmm.
it to have a face.
Hmm.
Maybe it's
Right.
just like an audio waveform. What
Sure.
does it sound like? What voice is it going to have when you
Hmm.
talk to it? And the third one is, what's the knowledge base that it's informed by? And
Hmm.
that should be really simple. It could be informed by
Right.
your email inbox, your email repository for the last 10 years. That's a
Hmm.
fantastic knowledge base to have a conversation with.
Hmm.
Um, it could be informed by your bank and credit card transactions. If it's a financial planning ability, could be informed by your healthcare history, and that would be your healthcare assistant. So these are all
Hmm.
extra extensible abilities to the underlying personal AI. So a personal AI operating system, maybe with some innate abilities,
Right.
um, and then we release an
Yeah.
API and a specification for third parties to add
Yeah. Yes.
extensions to it.
Yeah, and it's important that this is modular and that it's not forcing everyone to, oh, you have to have a digital twin or, oh, you've got to give it your health information. No, not at all. These are just options. These are just opportunities to integrate in a way, should you find that useful. Like in my case, I like to do a lot of research projects and code. So I need something to keep up with what I'm doing. And I built something like this on my own 7, 8 months ago, and it worked fantastically. But it wasn't local and it wasn't secure, and it was on a very popular system of APIs. So I am really excited about the local usage, local deployments of open models. And last week I had a great guest on, Tim Rohrbaugh, and he brought in a lot of these, and we had a great time. And since then, I've installed about 5 or 6 models on my local computer and my desktop and my laptop. In fact, I have pretty good results. But he showed me something, and it's called a quantized model, and
Yeah.
it's taking the smaller models that are even more trimmed down and more tuned, or I shouldn't say tuned, but definitely more aligned and more effective for what they are. And specialized models really do the trick a lot of times. We don't have to, corner ourselves into having to use this one particular open model for everything. But I'm with you. I think it is important for there to be some core features, the basic local model to help manage things and do the things. And should you need to call on a different model, it can do that and pass
Right.
that data to it. That's easy. And doing things like that, we have the ability to stay flexible, modular, up to date, secure, and also I think the key here is to make it easy for people to just install this with a few clicks. Like you said, if you can set up the AI and you say 3 clicks would be the goal, which I can agree with that. Those 3 steps, it's almost like making a game avatar, okay, for a
Right.
video game.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna adjust myself. I want a mustache, whatever.
Right.
And then all of a sudden there it is. That's what you're talking about too, or that waveform. I really love the idea of talking to a waveform, or
You
like,
mentioned Bruce Schneier. Bruce Schneier was adamant that his bot would not have a face.
right,
I
right.
think that is
Uh-huh.
misrepresenting what AI is.
Uh-huh.
And he said, and so the Bruce Schneier bot, which is
Yeah.
informed by all of his writing, his textbooks and so on,
Uh-huh.
that's a great implementation. So his students can now have a conversation, can ask Bruce,
Yeah.
and even like take a news article that's current and say, what would Professor Bruce Schneier think of this?
Mm-hmm.
And it comes back with a coherent answer and
Right.
gives you the citations from where it drew that answer. So that's also important. So it's a RAG in terms of counteracting the sort of hallucination of the general large language models. I think
Mm-hmm.
is a good thing.
Right, right. And then so it's when things get off track, you want it to stay in a sort of train of thought. And that's one of the things we've had to work to wrangle. And as the weeks have passed, I've seen a lot of different companies adopt different methods. I've seen a lot of individuals with varying results and different frameworks with varying results. And it's just this isn't like a huge toss up, but it's certainly a wild west still. And
Daniel, have you been
yeah.
tracking the compute complexity
Hmm.
of AI? I mean, this is one of the important impediments for AI running locally. Currently, it's an order n squared problem. So as the models grow, the compute complexity goes up by the square.
That's right.
Um, yeah, if you just look at a neural network, a deep neural network as it exists today, if you have 1,000 nodes in one layer and 1,000 nodes in the subsequent layer, you've got a million connections between those because every node's connected to every other node. I've been reading about Mamba, which is
Right.
order n log n. But the
Hmm.
research we're working on in physics-inspired neural networks that are only really applicable for a small class of networks, we
Right.
get down to order n.
Right.
And anyway, all of those research activities are extremely important in trying to push um, uh, the AI in line with our mission of trying to get it to run at the edge, trying to get it to run
Yes.
locally.
Yes.
So it's not forced to run in the cloud.
Right, right. Yeah, your local AI that helps you manage a lot of these activities and other interchanges between different models doesn't need to be able to write poetry, but it does need to be able to find your poetry. You know
Yes,
what I mean? It needs to be able to,
right.
it is an assistant and it should be able to do the basic things, okay, with certainty, all right, with clarity. And it needs to also be able to interact with the user to say, can you clarify that? Or do you mean this or that? That was unclear. And I think safety is also about those types of accuracies too, because then all of a sudden you've accidentally fetched the wrong thing, trusted your assistant. Now you're emailing something you may not have, the wrong attachment. I don't know. I personally, have to be very careful of what I do because, I have so many files and do so many things. And I'm like, oh yeah, where's my art for this? Where's the logo? Where's the proper logo? And, you get used to putting things together over time and then you have an order and a structure. And if you have that and you get your assistant to, have that in its path and understand these are these things, these are not, then you're good. And it shouldn't take a massive amount of compute to do this. And the local applications out there are open source to do this. And that's one of the reasons we're here, is because we can approach this as a community and with under the effort of something that's free to benefit everyone in humanity. Okay. And to me, I think that's what it's going to take.
Sure. Well,
Every
Daniel,
step.
the next step for us is the beta. So we're working
Mhm.
towards the beta. The beta is going to be a closed beta within EDU domains. So universities and colleges will host the back end
Mhm.
in each of their environments, and
Yes.
then staff and faculty will have the option to create their own personal AI agent. And
Mhm.
then it'll be student facing, could be student facing. They'll release it to their students. And so we demoed a virtual teacher's assistant, and that seems to be something that colleges want to run, and so that's going to run in Q3. We'll be opening up applications for colleges and universities to
Mhm.
join the beta program.
Right, right.
And yeah, and that's where we'll test it, refine it, and
Mhm.
we're aiming for general availability in Q4
Right.
if
That's
everything aligns.
Yeah, and I've seen we have a lot of activity in Georgia lately, it seems, with people picking up projects and activity with Kwaai.
Yeah, so there's a series of hackathons,
Mhm.
but what is very imaginative of the Georgia government is
Mhm.
that they're allowing taxpayers to say, okay, I owe a tax bill, but I want this to be specifically directed towards AI research. And so there's an AI fund, a research fund for nonprofits and to play in. And you can, when you're filling out your tax return, to say, okay, I want this portion of my tax bill to go there. So we're going after that, and we've got some good friends in that are members of Kwaai in the sort of Georgia state and local government who are going to be sponsoring the hackathons, but also, we're going to benefit from this sort of
Mhm.
fund.
Right. No, it's amazing. And there's so much support from all over the country and even outside. And again, I found out about Kwaai through my friends at the AI Verify Foundation. And friends in Singapore basically turned me over to you, and that's why we're here. small world, right? So,
Parish Pillay,
uh,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
right. Yeah, it's really late there right now for them. So I didn't want to bother him, but one of these nights we're gonna have to just one of his nights we're gonna have to drag him into our days
I'll get
and
up early.
bored. So he's wonderful. So yeah. Anyway, let's see here. And again, I think it's worth stating that this isn't just individuals coming together. We have associations, we have schools,
Mhm.
we have companies and entrepreneurs of all degrees, and I think everyone here is one of those. If you want to, I think we should talk with Cam for a moment and see where he comes in. So, everybody, I want to introduce you to Cam. Cam Geer, how are you doing there?
I'm doing great, Daniel. Thank you.
It's great to see you. So, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into
Sure.
Kwaai.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so I am a relatively new member of the Kwaai community. Met Reza and the team back in April at VRM Day, which is an event that Doc Searles hosts twice a year. So that was a great and really engaging conversation, and met a lot of really awesome people who've jumped into the Kwaai community here. And so where I sit, and I saw a couple of questions in the queue there. Um, my company, Cryptid Technologies, actually provides our mission is uh, establishing provable provenance of data that gets input into AI for training and prompt purposes,
Mhm.
really with the mission to protect the creators, whether that's, you as an individual creator. You were talking about the different use cases, your email or financial information. We're particularly aligned with artists and musicians and cinematographers and creators, because we really see, I think, a sea change coming in human expectations of what digital life is going to be like.
Mhm.
Sad to say that for the most part, people are just going to assume that content they see or consume online is fake, unless there is some, outright attestation that it
Mhm.
is, has a certificate of authenticity around it. And
Mhm.
so that's what Cryptid's technology does. We provide provable provenance through some applied cryptography
Right.
and not using a blockchain or a cryptocurrency. So we
Mhm.
have very high throughput
Yes.
and low compute requirements to do
Mhm.
that.
Right.
Um, and it provides the security layer
Mhm.
and the provenance and the what we call the verifiable authenticity of the outputs of the AI models as well. And so, we see that is going to be ultimately a market expectation that both consumers and businesses have in using AI in general, and particularly in the personal AI case, when you are dealing with such intimate and sensitive data.
Mhm.
How is that managed? And taking a principle of data minimization, part of our technology can prove assertions of what your data is or means without disclosing the actual underlying data itself.
Right.
And we see that as being a really important tool to sit within this ecosystem.
I think so too. Yeah. And I mean, there's so many ways to get hijacked, and there's so many ways to, for this to get approached. Let's see here. And we've got another. Okay. All right. Great. Thank you, Riza, for that. Let's see. Bill says he received an invitation to participate in Slack after VRM day. Okay, great. Interesting. Okay, great. I tell you what, yeah, you talked to Riza on that one. And Harrisman, thanks for that good question there, because yeah, this is a major factor. I mean, and hey, and Cam, I look at these videos and they're like, hey, which one's AI, which one isn't, or photos, and you sit there and you're like, okay, well, they got all the right fingers. This is getting difficult, and then you start looking at things, and I have a lot of experience with digital forensics, and and really solving a lot of tricky problems across different media, okay, and devices and different resolutions and whatnot. So it can be a vast undertaking, and I don't have time to sit there and wonder. And then in some cases, I don't care. You know, it's like, great, this looks wonderful, you know, but I think that it's so important for there to be that ability to authenticate, the ability to protect that and verify. And so you said your company is Cryptid. Let's see here. I want to make sure I've got everything right. Cryptid Technologies. So, and how long ago did you start that?
Actually, it's started about 5 years ago,
Mhm.
officially organized 4 years ago. But my
Right.
two technical co-founders, Dave Grantham and Mike Lauder, actually come out of the self-sovereign identity community, the
Mhm.
IIW, the Internet Identity Workshop,
Nice.
where they had built the very first cryptographic library that was used to um, establish verifiable credentials. And
Mhm.
just like any great technology, there's always a V1, right? There's always that MVP product, which moves things in the right direction, but recognizes as having a lot of holes in it. And so, for the last 4 years, we've really been doing the research and testing required to bring, you know, applied cryptography up to a level in this domain to have 100% privacy preserving capabilities. As I said, be able to authenticate any piece of data, prove its provenance, and so forth. And so we have completed our work there and taken our products to market to do just that now. And the timing is really lining up quite well with Reza and the Kwaai team here
Yeah, it's amazing.
to take that to market. There's a desperate need out there for it, and our software is open source, and so we fully expect to engage with Kwaai and offer our capabilities there for people that
Right.
build
This
out
is
some great
it's such a
products on
great
top.
ecosystem. This is such a wonderful ecosystem. And I mean, this is how we all come together. And this is how a nonprofit can benefit from those other companies that do provide a profitable service. And we're all in this ecosystem of engagement, you know, and it's a community. It's exciting. It drives innovation. It gives people
And
the
Daniel,
opportunity
there's
to
there's
give
good
as
example
well.
of this.
Mhm.
Yeah, Daniel, there's good example of this already. Linux is a good
Right.
ecosystem. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we
Mhm.
fancy ourselves as the Linux of personal AI,
Right.
and
Right.
somewhat aspirationally, I guess. But look,
Uh,
there's a vibrant for-profit community of
mhm.
of companies that are built on top of Linux.
That's
So
right.
we
Yeah.
get
Uh-huh.
a fraction of that. That'd be great.
Absolutely. So, and so what do you see as possibly your next step, Cam, and projects here, or what you're finding to be, you know, a new emergence with what we're all doing? What?
Yeah, really, in understanding the concern that creators have around, what AI is and how it can impact their work. The Hollywood writer's strike had a lot to do with, that concern and question. And, how are people going to protect their work product, their creative work product, and also get fair compensation for it?
Hmm.
We're talking to folks in Nashville around the same thing for the music community, and in cinematography, we see that coming as well. As much as all of those are going to be leveraging AI to actually help them do their work, they also want to preserve their name, image, likeness, voice,
Hmm.
and verifiability of that for copyright protection and compensation. So that is a huge part of our commercial mission, is to help protect those.
Uh, so I feel like this is really valuable in another way too for people who want to sell their voice, who want to sell their likeness, you know. Um, I think that's fantastic. If someone wanted to do that with whatever licensing and limitations, you can and can't do these things.
Yeah,
Uh,
so
I
essentially
think
where
it's
we see this
wonderful.
going
Yeah.
is ultimately with our capabilities
Mhm,
automating the whole intellectual property
mhm.
rights process.
Yeah.
This is not DRM, this is not copy protection, but this is about cryptographically automating the agreements and the consents to legal agreements. And
Hmm.
my background also, I was a PayPal for a bunch of years. Integrating the payments and compensation flows right into all of that. So that's definitely a bit on our roadmap.
Hmm.
Make all of that happen to really make this a commercially viable
Right.
ecosystem.
It's a streamlining that must be in place
Yeah,
for that to really flow. I mean, it's so exciting because let's see, little case study here. I'll bring up another host. So there's a guy, he's so amazing. His name is Chris Doe, and he helps a lot of people in design and graphics get paid for what they're worth. And so he puts out a lot of these workshops and talks, and they came up with the idea, him and his friend Mo. They said, hey, let's make a Chris Doe bot, and let's see if we can't get it to create some shows for you. So it had his likeness, his voice, and everything. And he was so excited. And I think this was last summer, and it made me so excited to see something like this come together. And in the last few months, we've seen video really take off, and with generative AI and just those capabilities. But and so I guess kind of what I'm saying here is it's not necessarily the stars or maybe even like performers so much as someone who, let's say, like me, I want to do a talk and make it available in another language, and then have that my AI likeness convert and it change my face muscles, the way that looks to when I'm saying those words in that language, perhaps. Okay. Or, oh, I want to teach a class on something, and but let's say an instructor got hurt and they're bedridden, but they have their digital likeness, and so they're still able to do their classes virtually. There's a lot of middle ground here I think is really intriguing, and lets people engage the world in ways they may not have been comfortable doing before.
right.
And although I am a proponent of public speaking, I think, and performing, and you should get out there and lose your, get out there and take that risk, break a leg, and get yourself used to engaging, communities and crowds in real life, in person. But for a lot of people, that's not an option. And for some people out there, they're not that far along with their engagement, but they have a lot to share, and it would really help them.
Yeah,
So
and
anyway,
so I
yeah.
was just going to jump
Mhm.
in because we know that we're in the tough middle innings right now
Right.
of this. And well, we're very clear on sort of the vision of what will the world look like by the end of the decade. And I think people will just be astounded at the impact that AI has had in the way we, operate our lives, by 2030. It's hard to see, sort of what steps need to be taken right now. And, there is going to be a question of adoption and
Mhm.
people's comfort level with AI, right now and in the next year or so. But it's going to seem like second nature, by the end of the decade.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is going to come down to clearly definable boundaries and understanding really where the scope of something is. Because I remember a few months ago when people were finding out, oh, you mean all those conversations I have with ChatGPT weren't private? And then even furthermore, if you use their API, they say we do not train our models through your interactions with our API, but they do look at your stuff. It's another endpoint exposed, for someone else to see and learn and gain from. I think that, in us adopting open models and keeping that local, we have that power in our own hands. But there's still, we're betting on in, a few years having it way more localized, would be great.
Yeah, and to
Even
that end, where part of our vision that we're looking to enable here is this concept of a data fiduciary. So think about your storage capabilities to manage your email, financial information, health information, your creative works, what have you, and having that personalized, safe and secure and private data store and it is a fundamental piece of making the personal AI operating system really
Yeah.
work.
Right. Right.
Reza was talking about, what is the computer going to look like, and we see this, data fiduciary really being a core component of that.
Right. And so Reza,
Mhm.
how do you feel? Go ahead and take that.
Yeah. So the so we're seeing that, I don't think we're going to get everything running locally, but we need to be selective about what needs to run locally.
Yeah.
It's really having your private data under your control. So that could be in a virtual private cloud.
Mm.
Not everyone has the infrastructure at home to run it, but we are starting to see in a post-COVID world, most homes have got pretty good broadband now,
Mm.
and most homes have been made into so that they can be functioning working places. So that's one of the kind of side benefits of having gone through this ordeal of the pandemic.
Mhm.
Um, and it means that you can have a some sort of appliance at home. So that might be the result of all of this work. The way this settles down um, is processing and storage moves to the edge, some sort of appliance, some minimal appliance. It might not be the LLM, it
Mhm.
might be some RAG enabled NAS device.
Right, right. Yeah, the cloud helps patch things together, but also having your storage backed up locally is wonderful. I think that as a techie of my whole life, and especially in the last 20 something years, how far is my life scattered across USB sticks and hard drives? How consolidated is it? I'm an artist too. Hey, I am my own worst enemy here. I have so
Yeah.
much stuff. And so I started consolidating to one drive, and then I backed that up and I said, okay, one's living and one's archive. And I've got there. All right. And that's with all the things that I have, all kind of consolidated. That's where I'm at. Right. And I would assume everybody is kind of like that in a way, where they have a portable hard drive, and that's their that's it's not network attached, but they could get that. And I think NAS would be the future of that. The home cloud is NAS, right?
Yes.
And I think that extensibility within a local lexical domain that's where it should be,
And then,
and then if you want to back up elsewhere, of course, do that in the most secure manner you can. Go ahead, Reza.
so having the ability to talk to that data is
Mhm.
great. So currently it
Yeah.
sits in the various thumb drives, and I've got a stack of disconnected, hard
Uh-huh.
drives
Right.
that I don't know what's on.
Got
And
DVDs too.
being able to have a conversation with it. So RAG is great for scanning all of that and indexing it
Mhm.
and vectorizing it. Now, in some cases, it's really the vector database that is the important thing, and then it would have references to the original source.
Yes, yes,
So,
yes,
but it
exactly.
gives you,
Mhm.
you can query it, gives you an answer, and says,
Mhm.
and here's where I got the answer from.
Right,
So
right.
we're not saying slavishly sort of repatriate or
Mhm.
decolonize your data. I've heard
Yeah.
emotive language around that. No, but I want to be able to talk to my data. I
Right.
want to be able to ask questions
Uh-huh.
of me, of my
Yes.
data,
Yeah.
and I don't want to have to pay a toll to do
Right.
that.
Right. We want something a step above a simple search query for
Yes.
our data. And that's really what we're coming into with, the just LLM assistants,
The
large language
basic
model
operating
assistants.
systems,
Yeah.
the desktop operating systems have
Mhm.
made such a bad job of search.
Mhm.
I know I just wrote that document just now, and when I search in the Finder or the Explorer,
Yeah. Yeah.
they said, no, don't know
Uh,
where it is. No,
mhm.
sorry.
Yeah, and yeah, it's like go back to the command line and go back to grep, and I'll get it done right with grep. Anyways, so yeah, it's incredible to see, how, it's more of an art than a science in some cases with a lot of this stuff. And that as we engage, and pulling on a lot of wisdom from people here, but as you interact with the system, you change it, you know, and as everybody's tangling with this, the goals that I had 6 months ago are vastly different. Not only because I've accomplished some, but because the environment changed. Oh, you want to make episodic memory for ChatGPT again, like you did 6 months ago, Dan? Okay, cool. Well, they did it for themselves. Now you don't have to. And every little thing that a company
Yeah,
came in, what was it? What do we call it? The iTunes store situation where here's this app and now it becomes a core product, you know. And I've seen this with a lot of ideas and plugins that were on ChatGPT's plugin
right.
site, you know, and a lot of things there now are built in. You have to
So
stand for,
Daniel,
yeah, go ahead.
you mentioned Doc Searle. So Doc joined Kwaai, and
Mhm,
he's now an officer of Kwaai. He's our chief intention officer.
mhm.
And Cam also mentioned Project VRM that's run by Doc. So
Yeah.
eventually you need to get Doc on this call, but let's speak for him.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
he's got some really simple needs. He says, I just want AI to make my life easier.
Yeah.
He quotes his wife Joyce Searles, who says, I want a dashboard for my life.
I love
I
that.
I
Mhm,
want an integration,
mhm,
um, or I want the various applications in my life to be able to talk to each other. So my
mhm,
email should be able to talk to my calendar. And
mhm.
that's just a disastrous level of failure to integrate
Mhm.
that we have in the current world. And so if AI can just solve that one problem, that would be a
Right,
great
right.
enhancement to us.
This is
But
some
but he also talks about and this is what Project VRM is about: vendor relationship management
mhm,
rather than customer relationship management. So he's talking about a complete inversion of the relationship between business and what they call consumers and individuals. The move from B to C
mhm.
to
C to B.
me to B.
B to B. Yeah, yeah,
And you're
yeah.
now the first party, and you
Uh-huh.
set the terms for vendors to accept. If you have your personal digital assistant fully empowered, it
Mhm,
can talk through a machine-to-machine protocol
mhm.
to your vendor systems, and you can
Yeah.
grant and revoke entitlements for them to
Mhm.
to be able
Yeah.
to query your system.
You have your terms that they should agree to, not
Yeah,
the other way around.
right.
I mean, we all have to meet in the middle, okay? And this is not like, oh, they meet my demands and all this. I'm the one in charge, but everybody is a person, all right? And if we all
Right.
respect this ecology that we have in the shared world, then we can meet in the middle and we can find easier terms. I really think so. I really believe that. And it's one of the
So
reasons. There we
m-
go.
most
I
people
see
have
that.
read this book, The Intention
Mhm.
Economy by Doc.
Right. That's
So we called him the Chief Intention Officer when he joined.
that's
Um,
right.
it's so IEEE approached Doc to standardize this machine-to-machine protocol. He says not really a protocol; it's more like HTTP. It's more like a transport stream by which your personal digital assistant can communicate with
Mhm.
vendors. And so we hope that in Kwaai we're the first ones to actually implement that. It's going to be
Right.
released soon. The protocol, it's an IEEE protocol and or an IEEE standard. And so we are going to do that. But this is what's going to happen over the next decade. I think there will be this inversion of the relationship between vendors and
Right.
individuals, and
Right.
it's
Right.
it's actually disrupting a
Uh-huh.
$1 trillion industry.
It really is. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the data management side. So Cam, I mean, we're talking about, retrieval augmented generation. I think that a lot of us here, we're keeping it easy for the audience, but you have graph knowledge base. You have different ways of managing knowledge that has been vectorized, and one of the things that we're really trying to achieve, and Reza, in respect to everything you just said and where we're at with personal home storage, is concurrency with where my data, what is concurrent with myself, what is up to date, not just secure and protected, but having a system that is able to, like you said, for Doc's wife, that dashboard of her
Mhm.
life, that concurrency of what's really going on right now, not some older news, not some older thing, but what do I have up to date. So with personal data management and storage itself, this has been a big concern of mine, and I've made a lot of friends out there who are involved in storage technologies and and I myself have done a lot of experiments and ways to get around limitations and whatnot in the industries for data duplication, in fact. And Cam, I used to be in Redmond, Washington, working with a very old company, and that company started with the pre-formatted floppy diskette with a volume label, and
Oh
they
man.
put out all of the, and we're talking the big ones, and then it went to
Yeah,
the
yeah.
small ones and CDs, and then USBs and DVDs. But back then, I found ways to hack and get around. That's why I got hired and solve problems for a lot of different companies in that area. It was exciting, from biomedical to oncology to just pure software or entertainment media. And I always found a way to get around it, you know. And at one point, people were paying me to crack their data and sell it back to them because all they had was the protected content and they couldn't reauthor it. And I was like, wow, what a conundrum. So I would figure out ways to get around these things. But, you know, there's always this limitation of size. There's always this, you know, things are getting smaller and things are getting cheaper in some regards. But, you know, we're talking about a lot of precious, you know, rare earth elements in some cases. We're talking about, oh, hey, let's bring manufacturing back to the United States. There's a lot of things coming up right now. For any of you, is there any emerging technology with hardware that you're seeing that could come into play here? Or like I think we all talk about edge devices are really handy. What do you think in terms of that home storage network or that whole integration into the cloud from there? What?
Yeah, I've got a couple of points of view on that. One is
Okay.
we're really big fans of content addressable storage,
Hmm.
so that you get away from file names for, you know, discovery and retrieval. And what it really means, and it's a, you know, quick technical thing, is part of the content of a piece of data is hashed, meaning that there's a, you know, an identifier put up against it, but it's not a file name. It's something that can be, you know, searched for and retrieved as part of what, you know, is contained in that file.
Mm.
So, you know, when you're talking to your AI and say, "Hey, AI, go get me, last week's lacrosse scores for our, you know, daughter's game. What, you know," and it can go find that, right? It does. I don't need to know what its file name is, or, you know,
Hmm.
its URL or its location. It's going to go, you know, just go get that because it
Sure.
knows, you know, how to find that content.
Uh-huh. Right, right, exactly. Yeah. And you know, there's a lot of other talk about, you know, AI's return, well, LLMs when they do come back with retrieval augmented generation responses that will have that citation, or here's where the file came from, you know, and that's good. I've had a lot of personal experience with, you know, different systems for RAG, okay, and having varying results, having some models do a really good job, having some that you think would do a really good job not. And a lot of that comes down to the way that, you know, I think that you're probably familiar out there with this term. It's called chunking, or where we take and start dividing files. Or, you know, if you have a context window, or even if you do have a very large context window on a model, it might only take the first 256 bytes. And then everything after that is just fallout. And you're not going to get, it's drop off. You're not going to get anything beyond that. And so a lot of concerns that I see technically revolving around a lot of this large personal data, you know, at least for ourselves, I'd say extensive, maybe not large, but extensive lifetime data. That legacy of information is to be concurrent and relevant and to be fetchable and addressable. Are you finding that this hashing technique probably as like a metadata type of operation is helping get around that? Are you seeing any
Yeah,
kind of?
yeah,
Okay,
absolutely. It is,
all right.
that's a great way to think about it. You know, the content hash is a piece of metadata that then can be used in the AI for, you know, search and discovery and
Mhm.
indexing and all that kind of thing.
Right.
Um, the other thing I wanted to say, you mentioned about, you know, what kind of innovations do we see in hardware?
Mhm.
We're going to see, you know, the creative hardware manufacturers, camera manufacturers,
Mhm.
audio equipment and stuff like that, literally put signing algorithms on the chips at the point of creation, so you can
Mhm.
have provable provenance. And think about, you pick up your camera and you put your thumbprint on it, and so now
Right.
you've bound both the
Mhm.
device and your digital identity together to really have a
Mhm.
unique
Right.
signature. And
Mhm.
there's cryptographically asserted to make it irrefutable that you were
Mhm.
creator, it was done at this time,
Right.
and binding in
Yeah.
whatever other data you want in there.
Yeah.
That's the way that you're gonna overcome deep fakes and things
Right.
like.
Right. Yeah. And I put a lot of emphasis in this many years ago in digital forensics and in other ways, proving what's real, what's not, being a digital artist, being a physical artist, having all those different perspectives. And I found, like, stenography. Okay. There's different techniques to put this into play. There's different ways to add a subtle change. And then there's that fingerprint that we're talking about. I had a project I was doing for an MIT. It was definitely a single project. And I had come up with this idea to create something called deep fact. So instead of deep fake, it was a deep fact. And it was similar to what you're talking about, essentially. So
Awesome.
nothing completely new, but so I really support where you're going with that. I think it's a fantastic approach.
Thanks.
Yeah, and so I pick the minds of many people. Okay, many people pick mine. And here I am with you guys. Okay, and I find things and bring it to everyone when I can. And so there's a company they have about 5 locations around the world, but one of them here is in Washington, where I am, and about maybe an hour or two away. Okay, east of here. And they're taking diamonds. They're producing diamonds and making single wafers out of diamonds for higher heat application
Wow.
chips. Yeah, and so there's a lot that I'm seeing out there that's really truly the cutting edge. I mean, is it a huge difference from silicone? I mean, yeah, and then no at the same time. It's going to kind of do the same thing, but and that's why I have a lot of hope for that home local AI chip, capability to have these models more locally stored. I think we can, see that in 5 years, where it's kind of common to take, like you would a graphic card, and plug it into the slot on your PC, and to plug in an AI chip, just an agent card or what have you, something that could be open source, and then updated or changed, but just to have that processing. I'm sure I'm behind the curve just to say that, and that there are companies well beyond that right now. But hey, I have an imagination too, right? So Reza, I know that you've, on all the things that you've been involved with, digitally speaking, and with hardware. So what are your thoughts here with bringing this closer to home? And I know we say a lot's going to have to be on the cloud in some respects, but what do you think? I mean, do you have
Yeah.
anything? Yeah,
Well,
go
look,
ahead.
most of my career has been about taking stuff that would normally be done, would be very compute intensive, and bringing it to the edge. Whether the edge is an IoT device or even an implantable biomedical device, you
Hmm.
don't you don't have the luxury of the sort of computing languages and frameworks that are that generate that are highly inefficient. I'm a C++ programmer. In
Hmm.
fact, prior to that, I would write in assembler, and I was, in fact, I led a microcode team. So
Hmm.
microcode is even, closer to the bare metal
Yeah,
than
machine.
assembly.
Yeah.
And so that's where my instincts lie. I look at a problem and say, what exactly are you doing? What's the mathematics you're trying to solve, and how can we do that with the minimum hardware? So, for instance, the computer vision capability, the entire stack that Real Networks had built, I pushed and I took that down from the cloud or from heavy server implementations and got it running on a very small low cost chip. And so I think these things are doable. If you
Hmm.
look at the ratio of, if you're trying to do simple math and you write it in Python
Hmm.
compared to writing in C++,
Oh, yeah.
it's like a 70-to-1 ratio of compute cycles. So we've got a generation of developers that have grown up, disparagingly call them script kiddies.
Yeah.
They've grown up with the web tools, fantastically
Right.
productive in
Uh-huh.
just cranking out code, and it's amazing what you can do. But it's not very green. It's got a disastrous carbon footprint. So that's it just on the software side.
Mm-hmm.
But we've also built this addiction to GPUs.
Right.
We think that the GPUs are going to solve everything. So in the chat here, I said, let's talk about the $7 trillion landfill.
Mm-hmm.
You remember the $7 trillion number that was in the news maybe a couple of months ago?
Mm-hmm.
And I had this nightmarish dream that I woke up of actually visualizing what a $7 trillion landfill would look like. I think a very small fraction of that spent on research into how we can do AI better and how we can drive it from an order n squared problem to an order n problem would reap so much more benefit for humanity. It'll make AI greener. We could make it smarter. We could make it faster. All of those things, gosh.
Right.
And so, yeah, my instincts are at a higher level. Specifically, I'm looking at physics-inspired neural networks.
Yes.
I also disparagingly called our current mindset as the height of intellectual laziness. It's basically saying, I don't know how to solve this problem. I'm not going to invest any time in figuring out the underlying theory, but I've got a whole bunch of historical data, so I can build a training set of here's the problem and here's the historical answer. And now I've got an AI machine that's going to be able to crank out and make those predictions.
Right.
So you're not predicting the future, you're actually predicting the past. Okay, so
from the past. Yeah.
Well, you're hoping that the past is an indicator of the future.
Yeah.
That's great. If your training set involves societal data, then what you've basically done is you've taken the biases and the inequalities, inequities, iniquities of history, and you're now encapsulating that in a decision-making engine that is hidden, it's closed, it's unanswerable.
Right.
And you basically put historical inequalities on steroids, and it now is the predictor of the future.
Right. And you share a really strong sentiment with me and a lot of other people out there, which is, and especially among my cohorts recently, was to make things simpler and to be more sensible and not throw so much compute at it. And you're right. I mean, we have these tools that are so much more advanced and are higher level, programming languages even that use way more compute to do the basic things. Or, oh, wow, hey, let me ask ChatGPT what 62 plus 38 is, and if you spell it out with words, it might do a better job if you type it with numbers, right? So I go back to this. I saw this week with a friend of mine who works with data science, and he's a wonderful guy. And he had this pyramid, and it was showing this order of operations for data. And I couldn't help but notice that it was a lot like this acronym that I studied, and it works in music and martial arts and in other things too. Okay, so take it figuratively here. But the acronym is FASP, FASP. Form, accuracy, speed, and power. Okay. You work on your form and your substance, and then you can be, accurate with that and actually hit your target. And then you can do that faster. And as you align more, that you can bring more power with that punch or with that strike or with that note. Okay. But in this, we've got all this power. It's time to cycle back to form again and realign our algorithms. And I feel like it's time to turn the AI back on itself. And this is not even my original idea, but I agree with it, which is to take and have it reform its own operations. My favorite example, and Cam, maybe you'll like this one, is correct me if I'm wrong, the Yaji antenna for Wi-Fi. Okay, was developed by a neural network. Okay, and the shape of that antenna is so counterintuitive. It's a spaghetti mess. It looks weird, but it inducts and it transmits better than any other antenna shape, like a straight whip, telescopic antenna. And to take these neural network, to take what we have and create better models that are more effective and not try to force this human element on it, but more or less adopt what would be the silicone equivalent to our neural networks, to our actual, the morphology of our neurons, could be an approach. But like I say, I think that at the math level, there's so much we could do. Hey, just think a few months ago, they threw out a few hidden layers on a llama model, and it was still just as accurate for a lot of things. It's still a lot to test though. And you still have that black box going on, right? That's one of the things we worry about. So with democratized AI, with personalized AI, and this, the open source approach to things here, what do you see, both of you, what do you see for a way to verify what we're doing with this, and a way to crack open that black box and have everything be validated to a degree that's, measurable? Is there anything out there you're seeing? Is there anything that's catching your interest in this regard? Reza?
Yours, Cam.
Oh,
Yeah,
Cam. Oh, is that a tough one for us, huh?
I'm happy to
Okay.
jump in.
It's all yours.
As as a product guy, I'm all about test and learn. Get out there. Pick a use case or two. Put up the personal AI operating system with what we see or believe, from a hypothesis standpoint, that we think the way it should be configured, and try it out. There's nothing better than working code, right? To get a sense of what's really going to be beneficial and what's going to scale. So those are the things. I'm really glad you brought up the need for operating in small, low power environments. Very happy to say that Cryptid is not contributing to the software bloat problem.
Yeah.
Our proofs are 48 bytes, and they run in milliseconds, and are explicitly designed for running in low power distributed IoT systems, EMV chips on cards and stuff like that, as well as in any other computing environment. So we're huge proponents of the ethical aspects of this, in terms of compute power and energy and all of that, as a major consideration for being part of the benefit that we deliver to people.
Gotcha. I love that. It's good. It's good to see people at the industry level taking that stance. And then just a wild question, Reza, in terms of Linux, is there a distribution of Linux that a lot of us are testing more than not for what we're doing in Kwaai? Is there something that we could share with the public here? Is there anyone? I know that we like Ubuntu. I know we like Debian. I've been using Linux since the year 2000, so I like all of them. I've used many things. I'm a big live systems user. You had me thinking about making some live Linux distributions on a USB stick that have the AI in that. I have so many ideas every week because of these meetings. You do not have to sign your time away to anyone or this group. But I do recommend everybody go to Kwaai.ai. That's Kwaai.ai, and just check it out. And come into one of these meetings and just see what happens, because we're all growing and learning together. Okay, it takes everyone to do this, or you leave it to other people and then they own your data. Okay, or they have a share of your sovereignty, equity in you that you didn't give them, really, or did you? So I think this is a turning point. The last few decades have been very powerful to see what the open source has done for the world, and has supplied so much potential for everyone. If it weren't for Linux, I wouldn't be here. I can safely say that. If it weren't for me getting into Linux in 2000 and getting into Bash and taking what used to be my love for basic programming and Turbo Pascal back in the 80s, and taking it to another step and learning Perl and using Linux and having that power for myself, I love that. That changed my life, and that got me into digital forensics. That got me into deeper computer sciences. That got me into more systems theory. And I think it's powerful to have that tool when you need it, and especially a lot more people could use this. And so no matter what OS you're using, and no matter what, or I should say, no matter what flavor of Linux you're using, Kwaai is here for this. And there's no plan on making anything set, just one distribution, Reza. This is for every type of Linux, right? There's no reason for anyone to think they have to get locked into any one type of open source distribution. Am I correct here?
Yeah, absolutely. And if Sam was on the call, Sam Johnston, he's a big Debian fan, and he's
yeah.
But look, when we were having this conversation about why are we calling the personal AI software they're building an operating system, and will it run on top of bare metal, or will it run on top of another operating system? Yeah, it'll run on top of another operating system,
That's
much like Mac OS runs on top of BSD, much like Android is actually on top of another operating system. And much like originally Windows was on top of DOS.
That's right.
And so look, don't get hung up about the operating system, and those underlying layers can be swapped out. It really it's begging the question: what is the computer that runs our lives, and having us think about that, and then also understanding what is the kernel responsibility, what's going to live at a kernel level. And if you don't think about it at that kernel, you won't be able to say the guiding principles of this movement are enshrined in this kernel. And so, it's we're not advocating for any one underlying bare metal operating system, but we're living at a layer above it.
And I'm asking this on behalf of everyone out there. I've been to enough meetings. I know a lot of these answers, but I think it's worth posing again and saying, well, where are we at with that, and how does that work? So, but that's fantastic. And that's the flexibility that people need. I know that when I asked some of these questions a few weeks ago, and so I had mine yesterday, in the hackathon, but I wrote my own sort of chat with your files on your computer software. Okay. And I did that on some Windows. But I used the OS library in Python to directly access files in the directories. And so I had, from my command line with my chat, I was able to cd, change directory, cd ... cd with an argument, pass arguments through, the LLM to the Python code and back, and have it understand that context. And I got around to the point where I could create new files from the chat. I could delete files from the chat. I had that, but I didn't need kernel level hooks to do it. It wasn't, a part of the operating system. So that just to, elucidate what Reza is saying, everybody, I mean, you can do this at all kind of software levels. It's not going to require you to be bought in on one system or one distribution. So this is extensible, flexible, secure, democratic, and that's our approach here. So let's see, do we have any further questions from anybody out there who is with us live in the show? See a lot of wonderful people. Appreciate the questions from before. Let's see here. Oh, thanks for sharing your link there, Cam. I put that in there for everybody. So Reza, what's coming up next? Okay, I know we've got a lot of our members who have been busy with different events and going out there, a lot of them coming to my town, from the whole West Coast here, for many open source efforts. So what's going on next? Or what some things that people could take a look at out there who are new to Kwaai or interested in being a part of it?
Yeah, so look, sign up is the first thing.
That's right.
And then if you sign up as an observer, well, we'll keep you updated with the public events, like the weekly public meeting and so on. If you sign up as a volunteer, it means that you can contribute 8 hours or more a month. That's fantastic. It's not a lot. 8 hours. That's 1 hour for a weekly public meeting, and then an hour a week spread over the rest of the month. If you can devote more time, you can become an advisor, or if you really want to get involved, maybe even at a board member level, you're a volunteer. You're just giving your time and your expertise freely. but you are networking. You're helping influence a movement that's hopefully going to be culturally significant. You're going to come away smarter than you were when you joined, and you will have made some friends and contacts, and you'll feel good about yourself because you're working on something that is more aligned with human values than the oligopoly that's currently controlling AI. So why else would you do this? Look, AI has done a number on our careers and our industry, and there are lots of people between jobs. We're saying, don't be unemployed. Don't have that gap in your resume. Come to Kwaai. You'll work on a specific project, and you'll be able to fill that gap in your resume with something. So do a tour of duty, a 3-month tour of duty, and work on a specific project that furthers our mission and furthers the roadmap. And you might not be technical. You might be, you might be a non-technical person. So come and join the policy track. Or you might want to donate your marketing capabilities to spread the word. We've got, some really crappy user, some visuals that we could do with some help in people, on YouTube, just improving that. We've got hundreds of hours of YouTube material that is just lying there and really could be activated.
That's right.
There's all sorts of ways people can contribute that are not writing code. So don't feel intimidated that we've got this rich vein of AI brain power in the organization. No, we're going to need everyone, and in some cases, it's just being able to tell the story.
This is so important. That the user journey and that story is what's important. What Debbie brought up yesterday in our meeting was profound. And she said, I've been talking to everyone, and just everybody, like non-tech people, and hey, what does AI mean to you? How much have you used it? And to bridge that divide, I think is imperative right now, of all times. I also think, I really like my idea from yesterday, which is my idea, of course, but to anybody out there who's visually inclined and likes to produce graphics, the user journey here would be so profound to have encapsulated into a few frames, and what would you do as start of your day to use this personal, democratized AI? How would this affect your day? And to think of so many ways you would use it. And I know that I would use it in all these XYZ ways. And I know this other person would use it in vastly different ways. But that's what brings everybody together as society. We're all different. We all have our use cases. But that's what we kind of need documented. I think that's one of the things that could bring a lot of power to where we are at. And like, how could we help this user experience here, their journey? They need to do XYZ. We're missing a step. Let's see.
There is no lack of, opportunity for, consumer experience, user experience discovery. So, the designers and the writers and the, artists and so forth that want to, create what this new, human computer interface is going to look like, is, that's going to be, I think, the biggest challenge or area for innovation for this whole space. I mean, we've got a pretty good bead on what the tech is to make all of this happen, but how is it really going to be functional and valuable for real human beings? And that's that is the toughest nut to crack.
It's the new ergonomics up here, and how we engage things between the visual and the tactile. That's key. So let's see here. We've got our links there. This is amazing. And so and I really appreciate that, Reza, the extension to people to come do a tour with Kwaai. I think that's fantastic, and even in my busy life, I always try to do something and share something, bring something to the table, do some research and bring it home. New LLM models, new types, different people making them custom. I'm always looking out for Kwaai and our overall efforts. I think it's amazing. So, because it aligns with what I'm doing, because I think a lot of people, they see Kwaai and they get excited because, hey, I'd like to see this too. And so it's wonderful to have found you, Reza, through all the miles of around the world and meeting people and not even leaving my apartment here and meeting you finally. And Cam, I can't thank you enough for your insights and your real experience with making these kind of things come together, and the low compute approach, that more effective, more green approach is everything. Hey, oh, we got a dog on. Who's
We
that?
do.
We
This is
do.
Dash.
Hey,
Dash, come say
Dash.
hi.
All right, there we go. Great, excellent. All
You've
right.
been listening the whole time,
It's
so
my third guest speaker. Okay. So anyways, well, I tell you what, everybody, if there's anything else you'd like to drop here, Reza, before we all sign off, I have all the
No,
links
that's
in there.
thank you so much. Kwaai.ai is the place you can sign up and join. And look, if you're a volunteer and above, then you get access to our Slack channels, to our work groups, and you can participate. And that's it. Come and make a difference. You could simply just complain and then wring your hand and do nothing.
Perspectives matter here. Everybody matters here. Okay, this is so
Better to come
important.
and do something practical. Okay,
Yeah.
be part of the change.
Right. Well, it was a real honor to have you come and speak. And Cam, again, your site is www.cryptid.tech, CRYPTID.TECH. Everybody check them out too. And Kwaai, again, KWAAI.ai. Check us out and see what's going on. And so from me to you, thank you so much. Thank you both.
thank you, Daniel, for
Reza and
the
Cam.
invite and the time. It was a great conversation this morning.
Absolutely. And then, Will, we got one question before we leave. Bill's raising his hand here. Let's see. One moment. Bill, I'm going to let you come up here. Bill, go ahead and speak. Here you are. Unmute yourself. There we go. Hi, Bill.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Great. That was actually a mistake, but I'll use the overtime to ask, does Kwaai have working groups for different industries? Mine is real estate, and the National Association of Realtors is hosting their annual event in their mid-year event in Washington next week. And Reza, I note that one of your hackathons is in October in Boston, and the realtors will have 20,000 members here November. So I'd love to talk about how we can ramp up innovation in the AI real estate space.
I think there's enough time for us to do that. You know, Bill, the thing you should do, and I think you've joined already, haven't you? No, have you joined? I don't see you on Slack. But anyway, let's form a work group around the real estate issue. I think it's this sort of, I was on a prop tech committee in my previous job, and there was a working group, and we were exploring all the ways in which how buildings can become greener and smarter, and how people can engage with it, and how you could breeze through the building. And it touches partly on what Cam's doing in identity and so on. We built, access control systems that know you're in the building and know to start switching on your air conditioning and getting your apartment up to temperature. But also, you want to know, maybe restaurants want to know, without divulging identities, want to know, okay, what is the population area going to be like on Monday morning? Who's going to come into the office and stuff like that, so that I know how to staff up. And it's that type of smart telemetry that can improve logistics. And there's so much information that's sort of available, but we're not communicating it in sensible ways. So I think that's the other opportunity. It's not so much personal AI, but it is kind of personal AI because it's personal information, but you want to be able to divulge that in a very secure way. And so in some Doc Cells calls this intent casting. So it's my intent to be to go to the office on Monday. Okay, well, loads of people would love to know that. They don't actually need to know it's you specifically. They just want an account. So like a heat map that's completely anonymized. And so they know, okay, wow, there's going to be a convention in town. We didn't know. Okay, we're going to have to staff up our restaurant more significantly. And so those are the sort of things that we can do a whole lot smarter. Yeah, I'd be happy to, first of all, Bill, sign up. Let's get you a work group started, and let's target the hackathon on the East Coast, and let's have it focused on your use case.
That's great. Thank you. I know you're past time, so thank you all.
Oh,
It
this
was
is
a pleasure
great.
to join you.
Oh, it's great to meet you, Bill. And I got back to you and connected on LinkedIn here. So this is fantastic. And we all learn and grow from this. This is important. This is a contribution. Your journey is a contribution, and sharing that with us helps everybody. So thank you so much. And Reza, thanks for answering that. Cam, thank you so much. And again, everybody, have a wonderful weekend. We'll be back next week. And until then, take care and enjoy yourselves. We'll talk soon.
Very
Thanks,
good.
everybody.
Thanks, Daniel. Thanks,
All right.
Reza. Bye now.
Bye.